Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. As you notice, something special's going on. This is not a normal video. It's not a race rundown. It's a little bit different. We got someone else's profile picture in the thumbnail, as you can see. I've got a special guest for another quick fire interview. I'm joined with Alpine team principal. It is Jay Snowy. How you doing?
All good. Glad to be on the podcast once again. We've shared commentary boxes before, but not the podcast, so looking forward to the quickfire questions you've got in store.
This will be very, very exciting. Of course, Alpine, a very, very interesting team right now, since you've taken TP throughout this season. Started to be on the come up, definitely a difficult team earlier on in XRS's time. But from you, how difficult has it been getting this team, moulding this team into something actually championship worthy, or anything worthy, competing with anyone?
Yeah, obviously I took over a little while ago now, probably a few weeks. And at the start, it was all fine and well. You're kind of setting in as a team principal. You make a few little mistakes here and there. It's been hard. I give you that. It has been hard. I've managed to get my head around a few things. I think it's the processes that you've got to learn a little bit more about first, and then you can kind of dive into it. But so far so good. I mean, we're making some good signings that have proved off. It has been difficult, I'll give you that.
Was it evident to you why they were a P10 team twice in both seasons?
I think so, yeah. I don't think, with all respect to everyone that has led Alpine before, I don't think they have made the correct decisions. And I don't think I will make the correct decisions, 100% going through next season especially. However, I think we're at a stage now where we can kind of see the improvement that we're making. But for sure we can see why they've been performing so poorly, let's say, over the last 2-3 seasons that we've had here.
What? Looking at this season specifically, obviously, I keep up to date with all these stats, all these numbers, stuff like that, because I enjoy that kind of stuff. And I knew that Alpine got their first ever win this season. Of course, you weren't in TP at that point. And they're also their first ever pole as well this season. So it's been a real slow start for them, while the other teams are sat on, dozens of podiums and wins and whatnot. But you've come in and there's been a lot better results. We've, of course, saw the Canada-Belgium area where you're getting wins in a row, which is very, very successful as well. What do you see from just this season? We've got 4 weeks left, or 3 weeks left now. What do you see from this season? Can you catch P9 in the OCC?
Definitely. I think, as much as I get along with Stygian, I think at the moment Alpine are performing fairly well, pretty much across the board. I would say we've got some dark horses, put it that way. Looking at the standings now, we're only 29 points behind them, and that's only Div 5.
Wow.
So even without 4, 3, 2 and 1, that gap may change slightly. And we're only 83 points behind Sauber, who I know who have been having a tricky road. So I reckon P8 is on the cards if we keep performing the way that we do. But hopefully we can get up there, get out of P10 and kind of start proving to everyone we should be kind of top 5 area.
That's a big call, considering the state that the team was in season 1 and 2, as I said, both finishing right at the bottom in P10 in the OCC, chasing down a P8 potentially this season. I think the question that everyone is waiting to hear, what's the plan for next season? Because Alpine, I think it's fair to say to everybody, is the next upcoming team. You hear the big three, you hear Haas, Ferrari and McLaren, and they're pretty dominant at this stage. They are the best teams. Everyone seems to believe that Alpine is going to be the next one. What are you cooking up for next season? Are you going to be challenging the big boys?
I think so. I think so. We've obviously I can't go into too much about driver transfers just yet, just for secure sake. However, I've got a little channel in our server that me and one other person can see, and he's been helping me along the road. I generally think we've got a chance at knocking one of those big three off the podium spot. And now I know everyone has come in previously as an Alpine TP and said, yep, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. However, I generally think with the team that we've got on board next season, if all goes well, we will be up there for certain.
And what do you think is what you can bring as opposed to the other team principals? What are you bringing that maybe they were unable to do?
Potentially experience and drive as well. I know everyone wants a TP position at one stage in XRS, and thankfully I left one of the big three teams after winning the Constructors' Championship and narrowly missing out on one of the Drivers' Championships as well. I moved to probably one of the best teams at the time to one of the worst. And it's in my nature to win and kind of push forward in a team. You know, I think that's going to help us massively, and I think the people that I know in the community, obviously I've been racing and driving and managing teams and for a number of years, so the people that I know is quite big, and I think we can use that to our advantage to push Alpine forward. I'm in no doubt that next season is going to be very, very good for us, and a lot of people are going to be shocked, I think. But I'll let the points next season do the talking, for certain.
I mean, talking about your past, in XRS at least, Season 1 you were part of the Division X scheme. Essentially you were just too quick for Division 1 at the time, and we did have a pace cap, of course now we don't. So you were unable to drive. You came through and raced the last 3 in Season 1, right? Because we allowed the Div X drivers to compete. And then Season 2 you went straight to Haas, and you obviously made a big impact. You were challenging for the Drivers' Championship, of course you got the Constructors as well. What made you think, okay, right, well, I've done this now, but why go to a small team and become a team principal? What made you decide that?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, Asteroid was the one person that actually... I can't remember how I joined the Racing League, if I'm being completely honest, in XRS. George was the first person to kind of sign me up. He said, look, if you do well in Singapore, we'll get you signed. And I think I put it on pole after maybe a few hours of practice and ran away with it, and then unfortunately came to a slow end. However, I think after winning the Constructors' Championship in Haas, there's something about winning. It's all fun and well winning a championship, but if you keep winning it and winning it and winning it in the same team, I tend to get bored. You know, if I'm not in a certain managerial position, put it that way, I think it's in my nature to kind of be somewhere where I can influence others. And all fair well and good to Asteroid. He managed that team perfectly. I would have done something different for sure. And I thought, okay, well, look, we've got this team that's at the bottom of the table. Let's just see what we can do with it. And I think racing and league racing in general is all about making a name for yourself and what you do. And if you can do that, then you get quite well established, I think, and you know that's always going to help you. So I think for me, it was just taking on a new challenge, and that's what we're doing, and it's going to be a good one.
So in terms of looking around you currently, looking around at the teams that you're competing with currently, and the different methods of the team principals and how they're trying to improve their team. We've got Mercedes, who are generally this season signing the big name drivers. They're trying to sign names that will give them good results. I've got I'm chatting to Sauber and Aston Martin, who look to be doing a bit more of a development scheme, bringing in drivers that they can improve over time. What's your method of getting up to the top 3? Are you bringing in drivers from other leagues, like you said, the people you know who are going to be quick and going to compete, or are you thinking of a development, a long-term scheme as well?
A little bit of both, to be honest. I mean, if we have a look at the current team at the moment, you know, it's me and Kevin's in Division 1. Unfortunately, he can't make most of the races due to esports being a priority for him. So I generally don't think he will be around too often next season. And he was one of the drivers that is one of the quickest in that division. You know, in terms of one lap pace anyway, we saw in Canada before it got called off. You know, him setting a tenth or 2 tenths quicker than the rest of the grid. And in terms of what we've got at the moment, you know, our Division 2 is fairly strong, and that to me is one of our development divisions. You know, in the Bird, we've got qualifying pace that is decent, and the race pace is even better. However, you know, it could be better, and the same with JB as well. He's not that fast over a lap, but his race pace is quite good. So if we can nurture him into being faster over that one lap, that's kind of where we would improve. For the rest of the team, obviously we brought Sam Newton in just after the mid-season, maybe 2 weeks ago, and he's hit the ground running. I generally think, and I work with Sam, in real life. So it was quite lucky that he is where he is, and he walked in and went, bam, here you go, and he will be a top podium scorer for next season for sure, and failing as well. He's got his pros and cons. He's a great driver. Again, learning different assists on and off. That's what we're going to be doing with him next season. So, bringing in people from outside is all well and good, but we need to make sure that the team is at a stable core on the inside. So, to answer your question, a little bit of both. We do have some new drivers coming in. However, some are already established within XRS, and some of those names people might not think. They'll turn around and go, "Ooh, actually, why has he gone to join Alpine? They're nowhere." But hopefully with these big name drivers, then might get some form of reputation for ourselves after the first couple of weeks.
That's fair. What about Div 5? Because of course I believe you brought in Sab as well, right? And then Dutch Booster was there already. What are you looking at in that division?
Yeah, Div 5 next season, that's the one I'm going to be proper proud of, I think. Sab has proved to us that he can go out there and win races. There's no doubt about that. I think in our opening race in Belgium, he did get fairly unlucky, made a few mistakes. Now, I've never spoken to Sab in a voice chat because his mic doesn't work. However, he sits in our VCs and he'll listen to everything that we'll say, and we will sit there and help him out throughout the races when we're engineering. He probably, over race pace, is probably one of the quickest drivers in that division. I'm just waiting for a few more races to kind of let everyone see that. He will be staying with Alpine over the next season or two, and hopefully we can work on his pace there because there's so much more to give. In terms of what we've going on with other drivers, that second seat, I'll keep quiet about what's going on with that seat. However, that is going to be a big name, and I'm not going to confirm whether that driver is in XRS or isn't, but I think a lot of people will be shocked, and some people may know who he is, some people may not. Division 5 is probably one of the biggest divisions where you can score points over your rival. I mean, let's just have a look at the Div 5 Constructors Championship. We are performing better than 6 other teams in Div 4. You've got Ferrari at the top, you've got the V-Carb, you've got Aston Martin above us. That 2 of those big teams, and I'd argue 3 of those big teams actually, McLaren, Red Bull and Haas, are all 7th, 8th and 10th, and Haas being where they are probably should have made that a priority to get up there. That's the division which is really and I said this in my TP interview, it's gonna cost you points. It will win you a championship. If McLaren had scored anything like Ferrari in Div 5, there'd be no challenge for that OCC at the moment. Ferrari are bringing it to them with probably one of the strongest Division 5's teams that they've got.
Looking more into a financial viewpoint for your team, obviously it's very beneficial. As you said, you're getting drivers from other leagues, from other places that you've already established yourself in other places. That's allowing drivers to be brought in for 30 mil, of course 30 mil being the reserve price. You're currently, I won't reveal the numbers to the public, but you are currently one of the richest teams on the grid. Are you seeing this in terms of financial? Is the door wide open, or are you looking at big transfer numbers and that big amount in your bank right now is going to be needed for next season?
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking to go absolutely crazy on the money. There are some signings that are going to require using some of that budget. However, I think bringing people out from outside of the league, and then them making a name for themselves like Sam and Sab, and More Leader especially, who's in Division 3. I mean, let's just take a look at his. We signed him for 30 mil. He's now worth 85. So over those 3 signings, which all cost 90 mil, we'd pretty much get all of our money back just off that one driver. So I don't think we're in any stresses of money. It's nice to actually have some money to play around with, and obviously we've got this end of season bonus as well, which is all going to be fighting for in the next couple of weeks. But expect some decently expensive signings from somewhere. but you may expect some very cheap ones that might make an impact throughout next season as well.
Fair enough. I mean, they're always important as well. You can't forget the smaller development drivers that become big in the end. I do want to talk about not just Alpine. I do also want to talk about you. Season 2, you weren't that far away from a Drivers' Championship. Is that a target for you in the future in Alpine now, or just not a priority anymore?
I think it is not necessarily a priority in a sense. You know, I'll still show up and race and give it my all. Season 2 was, I think it was Season 2 or Season 3, wasn't it? Oh no, we're in Season 3 now.
Season
Sorry,
2.
my apologies. Yeah. Season 2 was definitely more of a priority. I found my mojo last game, and it was working really well. I spent a whole year out of league racing, didn't touch it, come back, and was just as fast as I left. This game, at the start, I think everyone could agree the game was just slightly unplayable for any controller players. You know, you were about 4 or 5 tenths off anyone who was using a wheel. So I kind of wrote the first half of this season off with a lot of absences, holidays, was busy, general life things. Going into next season, I think it's all about who you partner up with. Now, in Alpine's case, and my case, I'm going to hopefully have a driver next to me who I know and can work with. We've raced in other leagues before. It's going to be quite exciting, and I'm overly not that fussed about getting another Drivers' Championship. However, the Constructors' Championship is the one that would probably mean more to me and the entire team. I'll always push drivers to go for the championships, and I'll always try myself going for it. And I think we're about at the time where I'm starting to speed up at this game a little bit. We're setting some good time trial laps, some good quali laps. You saw yesterday we took pole by 7 milliseconds, which was nice. A couple of extra points, and we had an Alpine front row lockout in Division 1 for probably the first time ever. Yeah. So, well, it's got to be mentioned, of course, but I'll be definitely pushing for it. But overall, we're looking for the constructors more than anything.
And as a final thing, and I want a prediction from you, because we're all about predictions over here in XRS Plus. We love a bit of predictions. That's what gets everyone talking. What are we thinking? In the divisions, what trophies are we bringing home next season? What is Alpine looking at? And also
okay,
the OCC.
I mean, if we start, let's start from Div 5. Let's work our way up. I mean, Div 5, I think we are going to have one of the stronger sides, you know, and I'm aiming for sort of top 4 in every single division. That's kind of the base program. But I think Div 5, it's too early to say anything. I think either second or first I'd be over the moon with. I mean, I know no one knows these plans, and it's quite hard to look at that and go, no chance. That's not believable at all. But I generally think next season Div 5 will be up there in the top 2. Div 4, again, we will probably have one of the strongest ones if everything stays the same, which is probably bound not to with other teams. You know, Sam's been performing well. Failing's got a lot of work to, a lot of things to work on. However, he is doing that now, learning the lower assists. So again, I think again a top 2 is possible in that. However, then we jump to Div 3. Div 3 is probably the competitive div that XRS has, and I think you might agree with this. The race on Silverstone a few days ago was absolutely chaotic. I mean, we were all on the edge of our seats. There's never a dull day when Division 3 comes around. Anywhere in the top 5, I'll take it and run. Again, we've got good plans for Div 3, and it'll be interesting to see what these new drivers can do, especially under the new directory of Alpine. I'm not going to put a specific number on that because I think anything could happen in that div.
Yeah, that's fair.
And in terms of Div 2, again, there's not too much of a change going into Div 2. Again, it's a very competitive div, and some of those drivers in Div 2 are actually pushing times that we were pushing in Div 1. You've got the likes of Mattia Manga in there, and Jojo, one of which taking pole with a 0.9 around Silverstone, and pole was just bordering at 0.8. It's kind of clear to see everyone at the moment that Red Bull are dominating that div in the last couple of weeks. And if you have a look at the constructors, I mean, even though they're not first or second, I believe they may, they may be pushing for that constructors championship. They've been the highest scorers in that div for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think, again, in Div 2, with the plans that we've got, anywhere in the top 4, I'd be very, very happy with. And then we come to my division, Division 1. An interesting one for certain. You've got some big names up there. McLaren are going to be up there, I think, and Ferrari are also going to be up there, depending on what they do with drivers next season. I think Neb's locked in for the foreseeable future, but I generally think we're going to have the edge over about 7 teams. So again, I would put us in the top 3. The driver that we're bringing in for Division 1 is always free on that day. I don't think in the other leagues that I used to race on Sundays, he ever missed a race. So hopefully, if we can continue the spree of winning Constructors Championships in Div 1, then I think we can push for that win. We can take the fight to McLaren and Ferrari and put us up there. In terms of OCC, the big one, this is where it's going to upset people, Avi. This is where it's going to upset people. Because
what are you planning?
Well, a lot of people are looking at, and I mean, I speak to people in the chat, and they're, Alpine are going to be nowhere. Everyone says this, everyone says that. You're not different. I'm aiming for a minimum P4.
That would be a catastrophic change in Alpine, looking at their history.
100%. And I get it. People will turn around and go, no chance, not happening, not like that. I generally think P4 is achievable. From what we're looking at this season, if we can turn around Alpine, even after taking a 50-point deduction, I mean, if we put those 50 points on at the moment, we're only 30 points behind P8, and I still think we'll get them. In the last couple of weeks, Alpine have shown that in certain divisions that they are top performers. We've got that base core, we just need to expand it. Yeah. I really want a top podium, P3. I think P4 is a little bit more realistic. I think we're going to be challenging a lot more of the midfield teams, like VCARB, like Red Bull. Obviously, Aston Martin's got new management under Reese, who hasn't got off to an amazing start, unfortunately, through no fault of his own. But I generally think we're going to make some changes that are going to shock these guys. So I'm going for a net P4. Anything higher will be a massive achievement, and I think everyone should be proud of themselves if that happens. Who knows? Could terribly go wrong.
Well, I think everyone is eagerly waiting. Alpine have surprised a lot of people. I think going into the next season, you're going to be a team that people are going to keep a slight eye on, because they might be threatening to some of the higher teams that maybe not have seen Alpine as a threat previous to this season. And then all of a sudden they become the biggest issue in the world, and you're right on them. I'm very much looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Snow, for joining me on this quick little interview. Thought I'd get a bit of inside knowledge on the team that everyone's talking about right now. I wish you the very best of luck next season.
Thank you.
And we've only got 3 weeks left now. I look forward to it. Right, I will see you all very soon.